Welcome to Friday, TGIF. It's the 11th day of July, 2025. This day with the podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, we've got a lot of ups and downs. Your back porch thermometer will be going through some gymnastics in the days ahead. First of all, we've got a cold front coming down the east slopes of the Rockies. It's moving along pretty quickly, a little bit ahead of schedule. And along and behind the front, gusty winds, as we're seeing in Montana and northern Wyoming this morning. And then behind the front and along the front, we'll have an active day of shower and thunderstorm activity that will linger into the night and morning hours of tomorrow in some locations. Now, temperatures do bounce back rather quickly into the weekend, so the cold will be temporary. But then another cold front that we've been discussing over the last couple of days is still on schedule. It's still looking very impressive for the middle of next week. And then we need to talk about this. As we have discussed in earlier videos this week, the seasonal forecasts for the summer are just a mess. They have just been awful. And we're going to kind of show you a little bit more about that here in a moment. Don't know exactly why they're so bad, but one model has really gotten it quite well. So we'll take a look at that. Beautiful shot there, and you're wondering what causes that. We've had other photos where folks have sent in where we get these really big straight lines like this. It looks like someone just took a ruler and drew a line in the sky. Well, this is what they're called. And you get these especially in the morning and the evenings when the sun angle is low. But basically, when the sun gets pushed through gaps in clouds, other obstructions, you get situations that will look like this. This is why when you have sunrises and sunsets, you'll get these rays that will develop like this. Clouds building over the mountains of western Wyoming yesterday, and nice blue sky there. When we had virga again, as the air has been a little bit drier, but moisture has been coming up on top, as we can see there in the Leadville area, then over the Owl Creek Mountains yesterday. But we did get thunderstorms that got very robust across some areas of the high plains late yesterday afternoon and evening, with that little wave going on through, and more virga, this time over Lake Granby down into Colorado, and then waking up to some early morning hail in the Black Hills of South Dakota. That happens. Nocturnal thunderstorms or early morning thunderstorms in the western high plains, even in the Black Hills area, does happen fairly frequently during the summer. Now, a nice video here of some heavy thunderstorms that developed west of Cheyenne yesterday afternoon and evening. They kind of stayed out in the higher terrain, but you see the nice rain shaft there. Very good structure. Updraft continuing here to form as those thunderstorms developed. And then they went down into Colorado, causing some problems. Satellite photos this morning. So the showers and thunderstorms on the plains, and here's the next cold front. Now this front is all the way down to the Torrington area early this morning, and the winds are coming in from the north-northeast. So the low up here in Alberta and Saskatchewan sending colder air in behind it. So this will be the weather maker today and into tomorrow morning. This is yesterday's wave that triggered the thunderstorms. Here's the cold front coming in behind it. This is by noon today. And as of early this morning, we can show you where that cold front is, but it is a little bit ahead of schedule. And this is going to cause quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity where you see the brighter colors. So it's going to be a busy afternoon and evening in those areas from the eastern plains of New Mexico all the way up I-25. And this is where the severe weather threat's going to be. And we're probably going to see a bit more in the way, maybe a little bit of that yellow shading here in eastern Colorado with the update, but there is going to be some severe weather, and it could go into the evening hours along the I-25 corridor. Here are the temperature anomalies by 3 p.m. this afternoon. You can see how cold relative to average northeastern Wyoming, the Dakotas, and Montana will be, and that cool air will continue to spill south overnight and into Saturday morning. And as it does so, this is between 6 p.m. and midnight tonight. There will be thunderstorms continuing into the evening and early nighttime hours in eastern Colorado, parts of southwest Nebraska. Then that that thunderstorm complex could get organized into a cluster of thunderstorms going into southeast Colorado, western Kansas, and the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. So this front going to be producing quite a bit of weather as it comes on through, and some of it's going to be severe in these areas right here. So strong thunderstorms in the overnight hours will need to be watched. Then as we get into Saturday, that front is all the way through. High pressure is building along the west coast. We're going to build up some heat here in California and the Great Basin states. But this heat, once this system continues to move into the upper Great Lakes, will come in. So Saturday, relatively cool relative to average, but temperatures by Sunday and Monday bounce right back up again. And with the suppression of the front pushing more and more south, this is where the thunderstorm activity Saturday is going to be the most prevalent. As we get into Sunday, day 2 scenario behind the front, moisture starts to come back up again along the front range, and showers and thunderstorms are going to be a possibility. So shower and thunderstorm activity creeping back up the I-25 corridor on Sunday. So that will be something that will continue to spread north again during the course of the day Monday. Then we go into next week with next week's cold front. As we showed you, as long as we have this configuration of the high air in the eastern Pacific, that means cooler air is going to have easy access to spill out of Canada. And we still have very good model agreement that's going to happen. So this is by Tuesday. So for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, warm air does get pushed out ahead of it. So temperatures really go up. Then they're going to really go down. By noon Wednesday, we have this trough pushing on in. And as it comes on south, it is going to allow that cooler air. This Hudson Bay low is just really strong, even here going into the middle of July. Very robust Hudson Bay low. That's something we watched during the cold season, and here it is just hanging on. As we go and take a look at the temperature anomalies by 6 p.m. Wednesday. So it really looks like the front gets into Western Canada, Montana Tuesday. Then Wednesday, it really spills in. So by late Wednesday afternoon, these are your temperature anomalies occurring in the European model, the Canadian model, and the GFS model. So they're all pretty much in agreement. The GFS is colder up north, but it's also not as far south. But you can see the message here. The devil's going to be in the details as we get a little bit closer. If you look at the 5-day temperature average from Tuesday through Sunday of next week, you can see that we have bookends. We have heat in the northeast, heat in the northwest and along the west coast, but a lot of North America is going to be much cooler than average from Mexico all the way up into Canada here. So it's going to be an interesting scenario. And we want to highlight this. This is the seasonal model bust I was talking about. The Canadian model is forecasting the 31-day period of July to look like this for the United States in terms of temperature anomalies. Look at that bullseye there in Iowa. That is crazy. But this is exactly how July is going to unfold. It's going to end up being right. Now, this model was showing the same thing when it ran in June and when it ran in May and when it ran earlier this spring. It was hinting at this. So you can see that warm in the far east, warm in the far west, nation's midsection, much cooler than average. Now, the European model, which you know I talk about and love and really respect quite a bit, it is just, I don't know, this only came out on the 5th of July. So it came out right at the beginning of the month and it's missing it. So what's going on here? That's a good question. Don't really know. But we always have known, and the folks who make this model know, that the European has a really strong warm bias, and they need to fix it, obviously. But the European is really missing something here, probably because of its warm bias in the modeling, the way they build the model. The Canadian model is saying this is going to continue into the month of August. Will it be right? Don't know, but I think we should pay attention. And that's why a lot of the forecasts for the central United States, which were quite dire by some, because of this, is not going to come to fruition. And this is what the European says for August. Canadian in August, European in August. I don't know how you can get them. That is completely opposite. Completely opposite. So when you see signals like this differing, this is why you never hang your hat on one model, because you could really risk being really wrong. As we take a look at the long range pattern, this is by Friday of next week. The front is by, it's through, and then we have the flow of air coming back in. We were talking about a monsoonal surge around the 18th and 19th, and that's exactly what we see with that moisture coming back up again into the southwestern United States and the southern Rockies. What happens after that's going to be interesting. Now, I don't necessarily believe this. This is the European model for around the 23rd of July. Look at the Hudson Bay Low, and what it's doing is it's sending another cold shot into the U.S. Now, this is way off the charts anomaly here. So I'm not certain that this is going to happen at all. And a good counterbalance, what you want to do is, again, don't hang your hat on one thing because it's many things with the weather. And when you look at the artificial intelligence version of the European model, which tries to say, does the solution make sense based on historical trends, what we've seen in the past, climatology? It says no. Look at that. So welcome to the world of weather forecasting, where you have conflicting signals and conflicting patterns. Could this be right? Maybe. Is it most likely right? Probably not. We'll be watching it because, as we showed you yesterday, once we get into that third week of July, we should get back into a more normal summer regime, which is this right here compared to this. But that's pretty far out. We'll keep an eye on it for you. Have a great weekend.